Think about it, which was the last exciting motorcycle from Suzuki that was made in India? You're going to have to think a long way back to the TVS Suzuki days, to the boss, the Shogun. Basically, ever since Suzuki went solo in the Indian two-wheeler market, they've given us great scooters, but motorcycles, not so much. But all of that changed at the 2014 Auto Expo when Suzuki unveiled this, the Gixxer. The name itself promises so much. And now it's on sale, which means we have to hop on and see whether it delivers on that Gixxer promise or not. Soon after I started riding the Gixxer, two things became very clear. One, that it is a very good motorcycle. And two, that it felt oddly familiar. It felt a lot like that, the Yamaha FZ. And now that we've got these two motorcycles together, it's all the more clear that the Gixxer is gunning for that Yamaha. The resemblance between the FZ-S and the Gixxer is striking. From the low-set angular headlamps, the big muscular tanks and the all-digital instrument clusters, you can see that there is a lot in common between these two. But the Gixxer looks a bit lighter and sportier, especially when you view it from the side. The twin-port exhaust with its chrome trim ups the style quotient significantly. The Gixxer also betters the FZ with its instrument cluster. Yes, it is small, but it is very readable, and it packs in a gear position indicator, a clock and a shift light. On the design front, the FZ looks a bit dowdy because of the massive hugger at the rear. But that is a big boon in monsoons. Also, the quality of switchgear and plastics on the FZ feels just that bit better than the Gixxer's. There's very little to pick between these two motorcycles when it comes to design and features, but I'm hoping one of them is going to edge ahead when we hit the road and see how their engines perform. For the version 2.0, Yamaha has given the FZ engine a thorough overhaul, and this is to improve efficiency. This results in the air-cooled and fuel-injected 149cc engine developing 12.9 bhp of power and 1.3 kilograms of torque. The Gixxer also uses a single-cylinder air-cooled engine with a 5-speed gearbox. But unlike the FZ, the Gixxer has only a carburetor. But when you look at the specs, the Gixxer seems to be doing just fine. The Gixxer's 155cc engine has a serious advantage. It develops 14.6 bhp of power at 8000 rpm, and torque is beefier too. You have 1.43 kilograms available at 6000 rpm. Sure, the Gixxer has extra horsepower and that's great, but what really boosts its case is the fact that it has a wider power band. The FZ, yes, it has great bottom and mid-range performance, but once you get past 6000 rpm, it just kind of gasps for breath. The Gixxer has great mid-range, bottom end, and when you get past 6000 rpm, yes, power does trail off, but it will rev to past 9000 rpm quite easily. The Gixxer's short-stroke engine will head to its red line, which is just over 10,000 rpm, quite happily. And you can feel the difference it makes in acceleration. The V-Box proves it quite clearly. Up to 60 km an hour, both bikes run neck and neck. But as the speeds build, the FZ loses steam. At the 100 km mark, the Gixxer leads the FZ FI by over 2 seconds. Then the Gixxer will speed ahead to a top speed of 116 km an hour as opposed to the FZ's 109. And I have to admit, it's the Gixxer that sounds more enticing when you're pushing hard. Both these motorcycles are great to ride every day with oodles of torque and slick gearboxes. Although the Suzuki motor feels just that bit smoother than the Yamaha. So the Gixxer has the edge when it comes to performance. But the FZ's forte was never its engine, it was its handling. confident yet easygoing, and it's that way even now. And when you look at the specs a little closely, you'll find that the Gixxer is following in the FZ's footsteps. Look closely and you'll see that both bikes have a lot of mechanical similarities as well. Both use beefy 41mm telescopic forks at the front and a solid rectangular section swing arm at the rear with a directly mounted monoshock. The tire sizes are identical too. There's 100/80 MRF rubber at the front with a 140/60 MRF radial at the rear. From the cockpit, the seating position also feels quite similar, with a nice upright stance as you reach out to the wide and flat matte black handlebar. The Gixxer though is doing things a bit differently. Yes, the tire sizes may be the same, but the tires are different. They are more rounded. The FZs are flatter, so this should be more agile. And then there's the tank, also very muscular, but it is a little bit narrower. It isn't as wide as the FZs, which is great because it feels the right size, and these indentations are perfect for anchoring yourself on the bike when you find a nice flowing road. The Gixxer may be 3 kilograms heavier, but if you were to judge it just on the way it behaves, you would say it is lighter than the FZ FI. It certainly feels a lot more agile, but at the same time it will convince you to ride faster and harder by letting you know what it is up to at all times. It is a very communicative and very involving motorcycle. The Suzuki and the Yamaha use bi-brake discs at the front and drum brakes at the rear. The Gixxer though manages to top the FZ in terms of braking as well, with stronger bite and better brake feel at the lever. After riding the Gixxer, I felt I made a huge mistake by not wearing a full riding suit, because on a good winding road this motorcycle can be that involving and that much fun. The FZ, it's sure-footed, no doubt, but the Gixxer is confident and playful, so it really has the edge here. But these motorcycles also have to do everyday duties, so let's talk about their sensible sides now. First, let's talk about ride comfort. The FZ, as always, is ultra capable at soaking up bumpy or broken roads. Now, even though the Gixxer is marginally stiffer over sharp bumps, it is equally comfortable. However, the FZ ekes out a slight advantage with its wider and plusher saddle. So if you are talking about sensible, then the fuel-injected FZ takes another step forward as it offers better fuel efficiency. The Yamaha returns 46.5 km per litre in the city to the Gixxer's 41.7. On the highway, the FZ returns 48.6 km per litre, while the Gixxer trails by about 4 kpl here as well. Yamaha's FZ has been a benchmark motorcycle for us for a very long time, and its recent facelift and mechanical updates have made it more relevant and a more sensible package in our times. But the Gixxer has managed to top it. It has the stronger motor, it's more fun to ride, and that's without sacrificing the practical side of things. It's got great everyday rideability, it's comfortable, and it is a confident motorcycle. It's also that little bit cheaper than the Yamaha. The only downside to it is that little bit less fuel efficient than the FZ. But that does very little to dim the Gixxer's appeal. This Suzuki may have been a long time coming, but the Gixxer has been worth the wait.